friends, welcome back to Food Prep Guide. I have a family favorite recipe to share with you today. It is our go-to brownie recipe. I have loved brownies my whole life, and when I first started learning how to cook, it's one of the very first things I wanted to try to learn how to bake. And I cannot tell you how many recipes I have tried over the years. Even once I did learn how to cook and I did learn how to bake, I just tried so many recipes that were lackluster until I found this one. Now this recipe is for those of you who like that chewy, fudgy brownie. If you are a cakey brownie lover, this recipe is probably not going to be your favorite. But if you love that dense, chewy, fudgy center brownie, this is going to be probably your new favorite. Let's go ahead and get started. For this recipe, you will need butter, sugar, cocoa powder, salt, flour, vanilla extract, and some sort of chocolate chips. We like to use dark chocolate, but you can use whatever you like. Go ahead and get your oven preheated to 340 degrees Fahrenheit. The first step is to get 10 tablespoons of butter melted. That is 1 whole stick plus 2 extra tablespoons. If you plan ahead, I tend to lack planning ahead when it comes to brownies, but if you want to plan ahead, you can just let the butter out to soften, and then you can totally skip the melting step. I do like going ahead and melting it in a pot though, because this becomes a one-pot brownie recipe. All of our mixing happens inside the pot. So next we need our sugar. We need 1 1/4 cup of sugar. We use cane sugar. And then we need 3/4 cup of cocoa powder plus 2 tablespoons. So total for cocoa powder is 3/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. Next, we need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We use Redmond's real salt for pretty much all of our cooking and baking. And then you just go ahead and give that a good mix. No special instructions here, just give it a good stir. Once it's all nice and smooth, we'll move on to the next ingredient, which is vanilla extract. The recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Y'all know me, I don't measure when it comes to vanilla extract or chocolate chips. So just a good little dollop of vanilla extract, and then we need 2 large cold eggs, and it is very important to use cold eggs. I did it with room temperature eggs, and it is amazing the texture change when you use cold eggs versus room temperature eggs. So give that a good whip. And now I will say that at certain stages of this recipe, it matters how much you stir, and this is one of those phases. You want to stir this for longer than you think. I usually stir it for a good 1 to 2 minutes straight. What this does, when you beat those eggs and sugar, that's how you get that shiny, crumbly crust to your brownies. If you don't stir long enough, you see how shiny it's looking? If you don't stir long enough, you won't get that kind of crinkly look on top of your brownies. Okay, next you want to add 3/4 cup of flour. And again, this is another point where we need to stir vigorously. Together with really whipping that sugar and egg mixture, and then getting this flour and really kind of beating it, that is how you're going to get the fudgy texture. It's about ingredients with the eggs and the amount of sugar, but it's also about how long you beat it, which is really kind of strange, but you can actually get 3 variations of brownie textures out of this one recipe, only changing whether or not you really beat at this stage the flour texture, or whether or not you use room temperature eggs versus cold eggs. Very interesting. Okay, so once we get that all stirred, that's it. We're ready to put it into our pan. This recipe makes an 8 by 8 dish, and I usually just go ahead and use one of my glass Pyrex dishes for this. You could probably use one of those oblong style ones as well, but these make nice square brownies. Also, at this point, you could easily turn this recipe into brookies by just adding a layer of cookie dough at this stage. Once you flatten out the brownie batter, make up your favorite batch of cookie dough and put that on top. It's really delicious. So now you just top with your chocolate chips. Again, I don't measure. I probably would say 1/4 cup if I had to guess, but use whatever chocolate chips you like. Remember, we had our oven preheated to 340 degrees Fahrenheit, so now we're going to pop those in to bake for 30 minutes, or until a toothpick comes out clean. Here's what they look like, and I'm just going to cut them up and serve them. This makes 9, if you use a square 8 by 8 pan, this makes 9 brownies, which is great for our family of 5. If you notice, the tops are looking pretty shiny, and that's from beating that sugar and egg mixture. They're not super crinkly. I could have beat it a little bit longer to get more crinkles on the top. Of course, that is kind of just pretty and just looks. Doesn't really change the taste so much. But you can see the center is very nice and gooey and fudgy, and that is from the ratio to sugar and eggs and using cold eggs and really beating that flour mixture. Okay, friends, I hope your family loves this recipe as much as mine does. That's all for today, and we will see you next time. Bye.